And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Monday, March 9th. And it's feeling more like March should today compared to what we had over the weekend with record-setting warmth across the entire state yesterday with 60s and 70s. If we could get that back, that'd be nice. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And Bridgette, I hope you took advantage of the unseasonably mild weather that we had on Sunday.
Oh, I think most folks are ready for this. I mean, it's not always a surprise that we have some sort of a warm up, whether it's in February or here in March. So it just kind of plays right into that fall spring. And sooner or later, we'll get the rest of it. It is overcast versus what it was at, say, like 9 o'clock this morning. It's changed over. I think the temperature's even fallen.
Yeah, we've got a front kind of draped over the state, and we've got teens and 20s in the northern valley, and we've got 30s to near 40 in the central and southern valley. And it's where that front is kind of laying itself out almost right along that 94 corridor. We're going to see an area of low pressure right along that as we head into tonight, and that's going to give us some light snow, and it could slicken up that morning commute tomorrow, but we're not looking at a whole lot. So we're going to continue to see those clouds sticking up. Might even see a few snow showers pull in as we head towards evening with temps in the 30s today. Again, much colder to the north, and winds out of the northwest at about 10 to 15. That light snow overspreads the area tonight, again, generally along and south of 94. With lows around 20. That snow pushes east on Tuesday. About an inch and a half is all we're expecting out of that. So again, just enough to kind of slicken up that early morning commute tomorrow. And then temperatures in the mid-30s tomorrow. We'll stay in the mid-30s Wednesday. Another system comes our way on Thursday. We'll be on the warmer side of that initially, giving us rain-snow mix and temperatures right around the 40-degree mark, and we're going to see a little more wind with that. But the one I'm more concerned about is the one coming up over the weekend. I know we've got state basketball out in Bismarck over the weekend, so there's going to be a lot of people traveling across the state on this upcoming weekend, and it looks like the potential is there for a more significant snow event on Saturday into Sunday. So that's still quite a few days away. That storm is still out in the Pacific. So a lot can change between now and then. And our models, a couple of them are trying to sink that storm just to our south into areas of South Dakota. But again, we'll keep a very close eye on that. That's the more potent one, if you will, for this upcoming weekend, but a more of a wintry kind of typical March week this week compared to what we had last week and over the weekend.
Last weekend was state Class B girls basketball in Minot. And congratulations to all of those teams. If I read the headlines right, the Larimore, Marion, Litchfield team was the winner. So Lemoore, Marion, Litchfield. So good teams. Glad they got a chance to go out there and play. It was fun to see all of those small towns. In some cases, Flasher was out there for, I believe, their first time ever for a state appearance. Might not have been a whole lot of people left to enjoy the nice weather as they were taking all that in. So again, congratulations to the Class B winners. Weather that Dean brought to you is brought and sponsored by Progressive Ag. They are the risk management specialists for us. And we're going to be seeing our new Cass County Farm Bureau Assistant Ag Directors this month. In fact, we'll probably be seeing them here in just a couple of weeks. Excited to have those students join us on air to not only talk about our other guests for the day, but also headlines that might be going on. In fact, those assistant ag directors are going to be joining us for the spring WDAY Radio Farm Show Thursday, March 26th. Mark your calendars. We'll have a full day of ag programming. That'll start at 8:30 in the morning, go to 5 o'clock at night. Lots going on. In fact, I'm in the midst of putting together all of the hours, themes that we'll be covering. And we'll be including some of those favorites that you wanted back, such as the farm financial wealth and risk managers, folks that are going to help you talk about farm transition planning in a more congenial route. Then also livestock was a big question, especially talking about the beef market, and even having a farmer panel where a group of farmers, we're just going to have a roundtable discussion with those folks. When we do that WDAY Radio Spring Farm Show, again, that's March 26th, that's a Thursday, it's during National Ag Week. You're going to be able to watch us on Acres TV, Facebook, and YouTube. Lighthouse Commodities will make sure that we have the live streams up and running for the day, so you can watch everything from start to finish. And we'll be taking phone calls, suggestions, and ideas on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. I heard the ad before we started that was in Jay Thomas's voice talking about crop insurance deadlines coming. Well, they're next week. You're going to want to give Nate Thorsrud a call. He's at JLA Insurance. Make sure that you are set and ready to go before any of those changes and end coming up March 16th. And for today's email, if you want to reach us, weather@flagfamily.com, ag@flagfamily.com. We are, in fact, sponsored by Superior Grain Equipment. Protect your farm's future with Superior Grain Storage, Drying, and Handling Solutions. You can learn a lot more at superiourbins.com. Thank you to them for powering our email inboxes. Well, amongst all of the headlines that are going on these days, one of those things that we had happen here in the last couple of weeks was the wildfires in Oklahoma and Kansas. For those who had asked questions about where to donate supplies, whether it's fencing supplies, posts, barbed wire, if you are interested in sending hay or straw for bedding to that region, you certainly can. And you may have noticed that on our Weather and Ag in Focus Facebook page, I did put up a list of places that are taking donations or helping coordinate those efforts. Kansas Livestock Association, Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association, also Farm Bureau in those states, as well as there are some location drop-off sites that you're going to want to check out as well. So make sure that you take a look at our Facebook page. Again, if you didn't get a chance to see that, you can always email me, ag@flagfamily.com. We'll make sure we get you there where you need to be. Well, additionally, one of the headlines we've had is that the number of farms in the United States are shrinking. I don't know if we're terribly surprised by that, but when we talk about shrinking farms, well, it's maybe a little bit different than you anticipate. According to ProFarmer's most recent report, we shrank the number of farms in the U.S. by 15,000 in the year 2026. That brings us to 1.8 million farms. So, okay, are all of those because somebody quit farming? Not necessarily. It might simply mean that someone is no longer operating their farm. Maybe the land was acquired by another company, another farm, etc. Is all that land still in production? Some of it likely is. We know that with urbanization, we're seeing more and more farmland that are lost into those changes as well. Minnesota saw a loss of 1,300 farms. They're at 64,000 farms. They were one of the top states who lost multiple locations. Texas was another. There's also something to be said about vernacular. When we talk about farming here in North Dakota, it's most common to say, I farm X amount of acres. Some of it's owned ground, some of it's rented ground. And your rented ground can be determined by, the person's last name that you rented it from, or maybe it's still known as the schoolhouse quarter, whatever the case might be. But in other states, I've noticed that they talk about multiple farms being part of one operation. So you might be Farmer Dean, and you may have your ground, but you have either rented or bought land from someone else, and now you have rolled that into an additional farm. Maybe Farmer Dean now bought land from Addison, and he calls that his second farm, even though realistically it's all part of one operation. So it's just a little bit different how people use the terminology. But overall, we are seeing less farm operators in the last couple of years. Part of that is also probably because we have many farmers who are in that 57, 58 years old range, and people don't have an heir. They don't have somebody to take over, so their farmland is being moved to a different farm location or somebody else, and it's just changing maybe more quickly than they anticipated. So it's a little different story.
Do you know offhand, Bridgette, between corporate and family-owned farms, what's the ratio on that? Do you know offhand?
Farms in the U.S. are 98% owned by family.
Okay.
Now, you have to define corporation. Who do you think the corporation is that owns a farm?
Good point, right?
Because
yeah,
McDonald's doesn't own farms. Walmart doesn't own farms. But when it's a corporation, it might be father, son, uncle, and nephews. That's a corporation.
LLC corporate.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when you think about who owns the farms, it's not really a corporate farm. There's more than likely there's a lot of farm family entities behind it.
Gotcha.
So it's a little bit different than you might think.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but 98% of U.S. farms are family owned. All right. That's just some of the headlines that are there. But our guest is coming up very shortly. We are going to be joined by our very own Jared Hagert. He's from here in North Dakota. Jared's official title is now the Deputy Administrator for Farm Programs with the Farm Service Agency at the USDA in Washington, D.C. We look forward to visiting with Jared when we return. Let's not forget about your cybersecurity when we think about keeping everything else secure out in the yard and in the barn and in the shop. And one of the most abused pieces of equipment on the farm is probably that dusty laptop that's in the farm shop that nobody has thought about and double checked that it's not saving passwords or that there's some spyware on it. might want to consider taking that fence check assessment at techsupportfarm.farm to make sure that you're okay and safe. Go check it out. Chris Sherman would be happy to visit with you to make sure that your cybersecurity is up to speed and taken care of. So again, that's techsupport.farm. During our commercials and listening to the American Ag Network's Livestock Report, I did get a message from our guest, Jared Hagert. Again, he is the Deputy Administrator for the Farm Programs with the Farm Service Agency under USDA in Washington, D.C. Jared was appointed about a month ago. Unfortunately, he had some meetings pop up, and a lot of them have to do with the specialties that are now being receiving some available funding, just like we're seeing with the bridge payments for farms on other crops like corn, soybean, etc. So he's not going to be able to join us as we had anticipated today, but we can certainly talk about what's going on for some of that funding with farm bridge programs. On Friday, I believe I heard there were roughly 38,000 farmers that already received their payments. If you are one of them who has not, you're going to want to have a little discussion with your FSA office to make sure that you have clicked all the right buttons to get those bridge payments settled to you. Meanwhile, sugar producers, they are looking at an additional $150 million being available for them that was not in that original bridge program. That not only includes sugar beet, but sugar cane as well. And USDA did announce that back on February 20th. Sugar prices have really been depressed due to the global glut of sugar. And then on top of it, sugar producers are dealing with the same intensely increasing input costs than any other producer is seeing as well. So again, that's an extra 150 million available for the sugar beet producers. You can break that down on a per acre basis, just like we saw was done for the Bridge Assistant Program. If you look at any one of our crops grown in North Dakota, you're looking at $44 on a per acre basis on corn. You were looking at $30.88 on soybeans. Wheat, not quite 40, you're at $39.35. So those payments have already been rolling out, as I mentioned. You may not have yours yet, but you can talk to your FSA office about it, which leads to the point that when we were at Commodity Classic, USDA Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins talked about the one farmer, one login, if you will, that they want to see done within USDA across all programs. So when you farm, you often have to do paperwork with Farm Service Agency, FSA. You are asked to report acreage to NASS, National Ag Statistics Service. Then there's the NRCS, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Well, you had to go to all these different offices, and there's all these different websites to get things done. The goal now for USDA is to be able to do that in just one fell swoop with one login, and that you as farmers would be able to then keep all your documents together, be one form that would follow you through the entire USDA system. It's been open. There is some test run, you could say, that's going on for it. I saw a demo of it when I was at Commodity Classic back at the end of February. Is it perfected yet? Maybe not quite yet, but it doesn't change a few other things. It doesn't change the fact that your farm cybersecurity needs to be safe and secure if you're in there entering acreage numbers, banking information, routing, etc. So you still want to make sure that that is up to speed, and you're probably using more than residential grade hardware. You are running multi-million-dollar businesses. Two, companies like MyAgData, who are third party, and they are the only third party that's approved to do your reporting for your acreage, they are still in play because they can continue to connect that information directly from your farm equipment to that login. So you don't have to go in and individually log in and then still have to do your assurity maps one at a time. They would help you be able to do that download much more quickly. Farmers in the area have seen positive use of things like MyAgData, and we think we'll continue to see that growth over the next few weeks, as well as farmers are getting more involved in making sure that that data is theirs, it's accurate for the programs that they want, and that they get the final say on what's reported to the U.S. government. There's probably far more things to talk about as we get through our day. I still have some other headlines and so forth. I know, Dean, wasn't there supposed to be some heavier weather models showing problems on Thursday? this week? Did that go away, or do we still have it?
Well, it's going to be a system that's going to give us more rain than snow. So it's going to be a little stronger than the system that we have coming in this evening into the overnight. In fact, it's snowing right now from Bismarck west through Dickinson, right along that 94 corridor. So if you're heading west on 94, you're going to run into some snow out into the central and western part of the state. That's all moving eastward and will overspread the area tonight. So we've got that storm as number one. Number two is Thursday. There's going to be a little more wind with that system on Thursday, but should be warm enough where it's a rain-snow mix, and we're not looking for a lot in the way of accumulation. The one I'm more concerned about is the one coming up over the weekend. And when we go on break here, I'm going to take a look at our latest models that are coming in right now to take a look at what that looks like over the weekend. Yesterday, those models are trying to print out about 6 inches of snow for us over the weekend. That seems a little high, but it definitely has some potential. So that's the one I'm worried about. But the two before that, there'll be nuisance snows, but enough to kind of slicken things up. And like I said, we're already getting reports out in the central and western part of the state of some of those roads getting snow covered along and south of that 94 corridor. So if you're going west, little heads up, you're going to run into some snow once you get towards the Bismarck area. Even starting to see some snow, light snow out around Jamestown, but more so Bismarck westward.
Later on this week, that snow is going to want to dissipate for us because we got places to go, people to see, and things to do. Friday is the Grand Forks Farm Toy Show. That will be at the Alara Center. They are going to have their biggest show ever. This is year number 5, and I've already had several farmers telling me that they are excited to be swapping some things. They're bringing tractors to sell, and they're also planning on buying some others. I think there'll be a number of folks there with 3D printers who can do custom projects for you, so that would be a great addition to your collection. Again, that's going to be on Friday and Saturday. It'll be at the Alaris, and they do have a Facebook page for the Grand Forks Farm Toy Show. Even before we get to that, I'm hoping that the roads are clear because Wednesday and Thursday this week is the Ag Mafia Winter Agronomy Conference. We'll be doing that in Fargo at Bruhala. If you haven't yet registered, you can go check them out at agmafia.com and get yourself signed up. Dean's going to have a busy week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's guests lined up for him. You'll be seeing Max Steffes with Steffes Group for On the Auction Block on Tuesday. Don Kinsler joins from NDSU on Wednesday, and we'll get a tour from the Career Innovation Center with Fargo Public Schools looking at their construction and heavy equipment. That is an excellent spot for some diesel mechanics and others to be checking it out. So we will have more headlines and things to talk about when we return after this. one of the things we were talking about earlier is a new report that talks about the decline of the number of farms that we have in the US. And there's some variability to how you want to interpret that information. But one thing that is clear is what's going on with dairy farms in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin has seen a very big changeover. They are looking at the latest licensing data shows there were 5,100 dairy herds in the state as of the start of 2026. That's just over half the number of farms operating 10 years ago, roughly a third of the number of farms that were licensed 2 decades ago. But the number of cows hasn't changed. The operations have just gotten larger. So we've gone from smaller, more mom and pop types operations to something a little bit larger, maybe more automation. There are not many, there's very few mega dairies, if you will, in Wisconsin, but we do see that there is a little bit of a decline when it comes to, like you said, the number of people, oh, more than a little bit, the number of people, but we still have the same number of cows out there. So milk production is still fairly high in the state of Wisconsin. Pop quiz to Dean and Addison. Wisconsin was always thought as America's dairy land, and it was for a long time the #1 milk producing state in the Union. Any guesses as which state is now currently the largest milk producer for the U.S.?
Oh.
You know, with how much milk I drink at home, you think I'd know this.
Oh, is
You
it?
should, I got to pick up a jug today.
It's still Midwest, isn't it?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say Illinois, but oh,
No.
yeah. I have no clue.
I'm going
Addison?
to throw out Washington. I've got no better guess than that, honestly.
Come a little south to California. Happy cows are in California.
Really?
Yep. Yes, and for a long time, Western New York was known as a very popular dairy location, but dairy has fallen off in that particular state. Surprisingly, though, Western New York raises a lot of cannery goods, so green beans, peas, etc., that goes to the little factories that put them into cans and send them to your grocery store.
So what happened with the Cheesehead state? Why did they give up the
They still-
#1 reign?
They still produce quite a bit of milk out there, but just the size and scope of the dairies in California have been larger.
Okay.
So they do have the most milk production now.
Hmm.
Now, this whole situation in the Middle East, well, that's making some impacts on supply chain. And there are several illustrations that were sent out over the weekend as to what is standing out. One of them is sulfur. Phosphate producers are highly impacted by sulfur and sulfur prices. Mosaic shared last week that for each $10 per ton of sulfur increases, that reduces their quarterly EBITDA, which is their earning before interest, taxes, etc. That reduces it by about $10 million. So it will increase the price. Same is occurring in crop protection. Major manufacturers have stopped quoting prices for products like glyphosate, clethodim, which is a grass herbicide, 2,4-D, and others as we see costs spike. So this disruption effectively runs about 3 levels deep. You have the petrochemicals that are foundational raw materials for active ingredient synthesis. So for example, phenol is a key 2,4-D input. That's risen about 20% in a week. So we've seen with this Middle Eastern conflict how much that has increased what folks are looking at for pricing. Part of that is certainly transportation costs. Also with the petrochemical industry that really underpins the formulations of herbicides, etc. So such as clethodim, right? That requires many liters of a solvent called naphthalene, and it's now going to be more of a concern with the price jumping 14%, and that's really stalled quotes. And then we have natural gas. That's the primary energy source powering these Chinese agrochemical plant operations, from the boilers to the environmental systems. And because of that, we're going to continue to see price changes as well. There is a representative of a company called SPM Biosciences. He stated that they are anticipating the price of glyphosate tech, that is, to reach similar levels that we saw in the early 2000s. So we're going to see quite a jump up in that situation at this point. So keep that in mind. How does that impact you if you're not a farmer? Well, as a farmer, that's going to impact what you have to pay when it comes to buying your herbicides. As a consumer, more input costs increase what you're having to pay at the grocery store level for food. Some of you are thinking, but I don't want them to be using any chemicals, so this is a good thing. Is it though? Because if you don't use some of those, whether they're cultural or herbicide controls, we're only going to be able to harvest about 60% of our food stocks that we plant versus the normal 95 to 100% because we'll have that much pest loss. Additionally, these are products that have been proven safe over the decades. They have been used in order to keep food supplies more reasonably priced. I know we've seen a lot coming on in food inflation, but with some of the situations we're seeing, diesel prices creeping up, this will impact transportation costs, which impact our food costs as well. And I don't have a lot of skills, but eating is one of them. I'm good at it, and more expensive food at the grocery store is just going to put us all on an automatic diet, I'm afraid, just based on our finances.
So a diet, and we'll be riding our bikes more due to the high gas prices.
I'm gonna have a long bike ride to get to the office these days when I do come in. It's gonna be a little weird when I'm pulled over at the side of the road with my bike. Her name is Elmira, by the way, and I will have all this stuff overflowing out of the baskets as I try to set up shop, so to speak, versus what I do now in my pickup.
Oh, the picture in my head right now. It's
Yep, you can think that.
well, Bridgette, real quick, getting reports west of Bismarck now. We're starting to get some snow-covered roadways, and then especially further west as you go west of Dickinson, 94 is completely snow-covered. So again, if you're going west on 94, there is snow pulling in from the west, reaching about the Bismarck area. So you'll start to see some effects of that once you get towards Bismarck. That's the storm system that's pulling our way tonight into tomorrow morning. So again, if you're heading west on 94, once you get west of Bismarck, that's when you'll start to see the effects of that snow system that's going to be spreading into our area as we head into tonight. So just kind of a heads up for some of our travelers out there.
Well, considering that some of those travelers are going to be going past some pretty big farm acreages, etc., a couple more interesting tidbits on what's been happening with those changeovers in the amount of farmland available in the U.S. Total farms in the U.S. right now at 874 million acres. Now that's down 2.5 million from 2024. Compared to 2020, that means we're down about 19 million acres. So right now, 36% of all farmland was operated by farms with $1 million or more in sales, which was actually up slightly from 2024, but substantially higher than what was going on back in 2020. Now, I always laugh at this statistic. It says average farm size is 470 acres. If you're using, to get to that number, you have to be using a lot of smaller farms as well. You're using some hobby farms. You're using, those 40 acres that somebody is farming intensively, no doubt, with CSAs, gardens, etc. When I look at North Dakota and I think about average farm size of what someone is planting on a larger full-size commercial scale, etc., we're probably closer to that 4,500, 5,000 acre average across the state. But when we look at it, the average farm size is talked about in the U.S. is 470 acres, which is still substantially higher than what we see in many other countries. If you look at most of the African continent, the same with Mexico, a lot of that is subsistence farming, and they're on incredibly small acreages. So things have changed quite a bit in what they look like. So when you look at the $1 million or more sales off the farm, when you look at that class, that average farm size actually is more like 2,700 acres across the U.S. So if we break it down based on those dollars, that makes a bigger difference. I'd mentioned that Minnesota was one of the states that lost the most farms in the last year. Texas was another. There were other declines in Kansas, Indiana, Iowa, Montana, Illinois, Ohio, and Tennessee. And again, a lot of times urbanization affects that we don't even think of. I was on a panel during Commodity Classic in San Antonio with a gal who farms in that eastern Tennessee neighborhood. She said they now are to the point where they do not move equipment during the day because of all of the traffic from small communities that have really grown tremendously in the last 10 years. So they will set their alarms and go out at 2 and 3 in the morning to move equipment from field to field in order to do it safely without heavy traffic around them. Those are some big changes.
Yeah, and Bridgette, we got Trucker Al on line one. Al, what's going on?
In Wisconsin.
Say that again, Al. You got cut off there.
It's 70 degrees in Madison, Wisconsin.
Well, don't rub that in. It was
He's called to brag.
He called to brag. Is that all he called for? I thought he was calling with the road reporters.
That's okay.
Well, no, I actually called about I called about the California milk and all that. There, actually, our company hauls load after load of whey out of California back into Wisconsin to make cheese.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
You're right.
So
The production can happen in one state and the formulation, so to speak, or the manufacturing in another.
Yep.
interesting.
Produce going all over the country.
Interesting. Well, Al, safe travels if you're going through southern Minnesota there on your way back tomorrow and Wednesday. It's going to get a little icy and dicey there for you, so safe travels to you.
Just going to Joliet now, so
My hometown.
Yep.
Hey, stop at Marichka's if you ever.
I will do that.
Stop at Marichka's and tell them the short Polak sent you. You might get a free meal.
I'll do that.
All
Might
right,
get
Al.
kicked out.
He might get kicked out instead. Thanks, Al.
When we return, we've got a story about Kubota, the little tractor company that could. Maybe not everybody thinks about them very often, but you should. And we'll do that when we return.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:51 in the afternoon, Monday, March 9th, and we've got some light snow that's spreading in from the west, snowing lightly from Bismarck westward. Once you get west of Dickinson, we're seeing some slipperier travel on 94, so keep that in mind. Now, that light snow is generally going to hug that 94 corridor, give or take 10, 15 miles north and south, and that's going to produce some light snow overnight tonight. So your morning commute tomorrow in and around the FM area into Lakes Country could be a little slippery. Northern Valley, you're really not going to see much except a few flurries out of this. That's storm number 1. And we'll have temperatures generally in the 30s most of this week. Storm number 2 arrives Thursday. That one looks to be, about the same strength as the one that's passing through tonight into early tomorrow. A little more wind with that one on Thursday. But temperatures should be hugging that 40-degree mark, so I'm not expecting a whole lot in the way of accumulation with that system on Thursday. But the one over the weekend, that does pack a little more punch. In fact, we're going to have wind and snow with that, and we're getting current early indications of anywhere between 3 to 6 inches of snow with that system over the weekend. We'll wait and see how that pans out, but that system is still out in the Pacific, so still has a ways to go, and the track of that will be important on how much snow exactly we get. But the one over the weekend definitely looks like one to kind of worry about, again, if you have any travel plans across the entire state. That's going to affect not just the FM and the Valley area, but the entire state with that one over the weekend. So stay tuned for that one. Again, it's still, I know we got spoiled over the weekend, but like you said, Bridgette, fall, spring, it happens every year, and this year no exception. And even after these trio of storms come through this weekend of the weekend, we'll probably have one more early next week, and then we're getting strong indications of a big push of very warm air coming into the area, kind of similar to what we had on Sunday, by late next week into the following weekend. We'll see if that holds through, but that would be nice. At least we're not stuck in a cold and snowy pattern for any length of time. So good news there if you're a fan of spring. Yeah, we still have a little more winter to go through, but we're seeing more and more signs of spring. And, we're getting this I hate to say heat ridge because it's too early in the season for it, but there has been record warmth that's been set from Nevada, Arizona, all the way through Texas over the last couple of weeks. And very dry conditions with some of those wildfires too, and unfortunately, it looks like that is going to continue to expand as we head. I was talking with Gary about this upcoming summer, and we'll have Gary on. Looks like early next month with our spring outlook, and Gary will be talking about that as well. But it looks like a pretty dry and warm to hot summer over much of the Rockies into the central southern plains, so not good for wildfires and very dry conditions as well.
Weather is one thing, but there's a lot of things happening at a governmental level as well, and one of them is a new memorandum of understanding that was signed between U.S. Secretary of Ag Brooke Rollins and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Not normally, too, that you hear talking about memorandums of understanding, but here they are. So why are they doing this? They have launched the National Farm Security Action Plan, and they are elevating American agriculture as a key element of national security for really the first time in history. Now, USDA has taken some very decisive action to secure farmland, protect critical supply chains, and also defend nutrition programs from fraud and foreign influence. So what are some of the actions that will be in this new National Farm Security Action Plan? They are publishing or requiring to publish in advance notice of proposed rulemaking on modernizing the reporting requirements of foreign investments in ag land. They are developing, as we mentioned earlier, the online filing system, so there's an online portal for farmers as well. Terminating contractors and visiting scientists who have citizenship from countries of concern. They are working across federal governmental agencies to designate critical fertilizer inputs as critical minerals. And they are also developing new research and development priorities that emphasize the importance of safeguarding American agriculture. So, do we see that more of these things can happen? They may. USDA has also announced the creation of the Office of Research, Economic, and Science Security within the USDA's Office of the Chief Scientist. They're going to be responsible for coordinating research security efforts across the entire USDA research enterprise. That includes both internal and external activities. So more and more coming from them. One also thing that they are looking at doing through this memorandum of understanding is blocking taxpayer funding for solar panels from China. That was another item. Now, I mentioned Kubota, the little tractor that could. There's been a long line of orange tractors in tractor history. In fact, the tractor nerd that I've suddenly become, I was watching part 2, The Tractor Wars. It was a book done by Neil Dahlstrom, one of our guests, who's also the archivist for John Deere. I was watching that over the weekend. And Kubota wasn't mentioned, but we think about orange tractors, maybe in Alice Chalmers, Minneapolis Moline. Kubota actually started in 1890, and it was originally focused on producing cast iron pipes for water movement and sanitation. But by the 1920s, Kubota was building much more infrastructure that got into mechanical engineering. Post-World War II, they had a labor shortage, needed to find more ways for mechanization, and Kubota stepped up. They built their first tractor, and as that progressed, by 1960, they already were a very trusted manufacturer because they had compact tractors, reliable engines, and that company was able to take the next step. And what they did was start coming to other countries. So that T15, which was one of their first tractors, that design has really allowed farmers to find ways to navigate tighter field ranges, varied terrain. It's a very efficient diesel engine with low fuel consumption. And Kubota still remains today one of those tractor companies that's well respected. They bring out a good product, and landowners have liked and enjoyed the smaller size tractor for a variety of reasons, whether it's gardening, orchard. We see them used in lawn and garden services, but also they've gotten some slightly larger tractor sizes that are being used by livestock producers and others. So Kubota is now a powerhouse, and they are in over 150 different countries. So there you go, Kubota, the little tractor that always could.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today's show of Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, but don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.